Hi, and welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, whole person leadership facilitator, and your host. The Human Side of Business podcast is fueled by the genuine curiosity to understand how personal characteristics and skills can be leveraged to drive individual and team performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately organizational success within business. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, expanding our learning edges, and exploring the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of organizations. I'm so glad you're here. Hi there, this is Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance, where our business is the success of your business. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, facilitator, and your host of the Elevate Business podcast. The Elevate Business podcast is a journey of discovery fueled by the curiosity to genuinely understand what makes people tick when it comes to their professional path, choices made, and the personal characteristics that drive performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately success. The Elevate Business podcast is here to promote the enormous contributions of small and medium-sized businesses around the world by exploring the actions that make a workplace successful, the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of an organization, and how we build whole person performance from the ground up. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, growing our learning edges, and honoring our passions with a special guest who has elevated their business, overcome obstacles, and inspires others to do the same. So glad you're here. Hi, and a warm welcome to episode number 15 of the Elevate Business podcast. Both myself, Ange McCabe, and Scott Rust are your hosts. We have the pleasure of introducing you to Riaz Sidi, who is the president of Sidi.io, a boutique demand generation agency specializing in lead generation for B2B tech companies. As a dynamic sales leader, Riaz has the experience training over 500 advertising professionals and brings the experience leading his team at Sidi.io, which has grown from 3 employees to 13 in just the past 8 months. Welcome, Riaz.
Thank you, Ange and Scott, for having me.
It's our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your company and your journey in establishing your company.
Right. So, where to start, really? It's been tumultuous, exciting, rewarding, challenging 4 years since I started the business in 2017. I've been in sales and marketing for 15 years. Started off in working in call centers, and where other people hated working, my colleagues hated working at the call center. I was one of the few who actually loved and thrived on cold calling. And I realized when everyone hated it and I loved it, that there was probably something there, So that led to me being promoted in that role a few times and starting to manage teams at the call center. And essentially what we were doing is selling Yellow Pages and Google Ads to small businesses on behalf of Yellow Pages and Google AdWords and different companies. From there, I moved over into the media world, working at a company called Post Media, which is the parent company of the National Post, Toronto Sun, Ottawa Citizen, etc. And I rose up in the ranks there over a period of 5 years, starting as a digital specialist, growing that team from 2 to 15, being promoted to a sales management role where I was responsible for managing a team of hunters who are responsible for selling print and digital advertising. And then when Post Media acquired Sun Media, I moved into the national training manager role, which required me to travel across the country and train digital marketing and sales to advertising consultants across the country. In the course of doing that, I started to, dabble in some Facebook ads, started looking into how things work. And the company I was at the time didn't have any kind of Facebook ad solution. So I started dabbling and helping some clients with that. And that led to more kind of some successes right off the bat. And that led to more opportunities. And I said, I'm gonna pursue this on my own. And so that was 4 years ago. We've grown from, as Scott mentioned off the top, from myself in my basement here, as you can see, it wasn't all decorated a few years ago. There was white walls and probably sweat, tears, and blood on the walls instead of And another I would be like kind of curled up in the ball over there, sucking my thumb really. But yeah, so in the last 4 years, we've grown from myself to now 13 members on the team, and the biggest growth has actually come since the beginning of the pandemic. So in March, we were at three team members, off, and now we're at 13, as you mentioned. And I say that with all humility and modesty, knowing that a lot of businesses have been challenged significantly during the time, and we have been challenged too, certainly. And
Yes.
Initially our revenue went down 65%, and we put together a plan on a response plan for COVID-19 that has got us into the position that we're in today. So hopefully that kind of captures how I've gotten to where we are, but we're definitely celebrating a lot of exciting milestones, including kind of now reaching over $1 million in revenue over the last 4 years, getting some really, some nice clients that are doing good for the world. And we really want to align our brand with clients and businesses that have ethical kind of end goals or outputs from their own solutions that they're offering as well. So yeah, so it's been a wild ride, and we're just having a lot of fun.
Fantastic. And so through that humility, what I'm hearing is there's some strong inklings around learning how to flex that resilience muscle through challenging times. So you had mentioned you and your team had created a plan and then had grown from there. Was this plan already in place, like pre-pandemic planning, or was it something that you really had to pivot and develop on the fly?
So, I mean, I don't think it's not to say that no company has planned for a pandemic, but I don't think that's really when you're kind of juggling a million balls, the last thing you think about is the world shutting down and how you
very much.
It. So,
yes.
It's funny because when you're in the business, you're just like you're in your bubble and you're thinking, okay, everything that's happening in my business is the most important thing that's happening in the world, right? And then you get kind of humbled by what has rocked the world, obviously, right? So in terms of the plan, it was definitely a reaction and a response. I think what we've done prior to the pandemic to be positioned for kind of the current climate is we had an office space for a year between 2017 and 2018. And recognizing that our clients are all, we have clients in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Florida, California, all over kind of North America. It made less and less sense to commute downtown from the suburbs to just be servicing and having Zoom calls with clients all over the country and the continent. So one thing we did prior to the pandemic was in November 2018, we got rid of the office and everyone is distributed. And everyone at that time was only 3 people. So it wasn't a lot of people, but it enabled us to set up the systems and processes that we have now. And I'm speaking predominantly of how we use Slack and Asana and Zoom and how they're integrated, how we have a regular schedule of certain meetings throughout the week. We have our Monday morning kickoff at 8:00, and Friday morning we do a client grade session at 8:00. We do a happy hour at 4:20 on Friday. And then we do, we have certain sessions kind of throughout the week that enable us to stay engaged with each other and then also kind of keep us accountable as well. So in terms of, I wouldn't call it a conscious pre-pandemic planning, but I think it's just doing good planning and due diligence and having the right systems in place have prepared us to go on the offensive when a lot of companies were trying to figure out how to work remotely.
I think you bring up a good point there, Riaz, where you said you guys had already gone remote prior to this. You didn't have that specific hurdle to kind of go over and understand, okay, well, how are we going to communicate together and how are we going to work as a team to be able to overcome this? Which I'm sure that was some kind of support, some kind of help, given the challenge we were all facing at that time. And I'm curious, I know you mentioned a little bit about the weekly team meetings, and keeping everybody up to date. And I'm wondering if we dive in a little bit further into just in terms of communication, because I know that's one thing that I've noticed with a lot of the clients that we work with and just other people that we talk to. It's, how do we communicate with employees? And, in the past where I can just show up at their office or show up at their cubicle and just ask them a question. I'd be curious, what are some of the communication strategies you kind of have set up internally that you've noticed have worked well?
So I think that, there's a couple of things, and it almost transitions from the last question that you asked, which is in terms of how we've planned. Essentially, one thing that I did reiterate with the team, and this is a business decision, so not all leaders will kind of follow this view, if you will. I firmly believe when I was an employee at other companies, which I was for many years prior to the last 4 years, it was important for me to understand the bigger picture, because that really got me motivated and excited about what my little cog in the master machine was actually contributing. So in terms of how I communicated with the team was to let them know, look, this is happening, that we are gonna want to brace for whatever challenges we're about to face. But one thing I can assure you is that we have been saving for a long time. We've had many profitable months, and so we're in a position where we are not desperate. And I made that very clear to them, that we had, like 2 years of runway where if we had no revenue, we would still be okay. And kind of goes back to the last question of pre-pandemic planning. Well, right now, those that have cash stored away for the winter are not having as dark of a winter right now, right? So I think that has kind of put us in a position where, if you think about the desperate salesperson, or even I'll take it so far as to say the desperate boyfriend or girlfriend, right? That just keeps asking for the sale, and you can hear it in their voice that they're nervous about not closing on it, right? So for us being in a position where we were cash flow, I don't want to say heavy, but like appropriately planned, or for an emergency like this, that took the desperation out of it, and it actually allowed us to go on the offensive, knowing that, okay, well, if we can help some other businesses get out of this, then we're just doing good by the world and the business community, and things aren't going to fall apart. And that came out. The team kind of felt that, and I tried to convey that bravado without being arrogant about it. Staying modest and humble. So that's kind of one main thing that I communicated with the team. The second was really around planning for mental health and physical health and family. Like anyone that knows in the company knows that I really prioritize those three things, and I want to make sure that not only am I living that or talking it, but I'm also walking the walk as well, right? So what we've done for that is encouraging exercise, encouraging going around the block. I walk my dog every day at noon, except for today, obviously, right? Walking your dog around the block, listening to Spotify, having music, because music for me is always very therapeutic. Doing things like meditation and, digging deep. And, there's a fine line, obviously, between professional and personal, but I genuinely feel that my team knows that they can come to me with anything, and that I'll be there in confidence to support them. And they can choose to take me up on that or not. That's up to them. But at least having that open door policy virtually is probably, at least I hope it's a nice thing for them to have and feel, knowing that myself, and by extension the rest of the team and the leadership team, is supporting them in whatever they're dealing with. Because it could be maybe not them. They might have they may not have lost their role as a result of the pandemic, but they may have family members who don't have it anymore somewhere, or a spouse, or or even someone falling ill, as a result of COVID or not, or through mental health and that type of thing. So I think sometimes we don't know the full story of our team members, and I think it's important to be sensitive to the fact that company that they work for and the job that they work at is not the only facet of their life. It's only one element of their life, and I want to make sure that they know that we know that, right? Because sometimes if we're like just looking at them as like you're like a number on a spreadsheet, and these are the roles and responsibilities for your role, and like if they feel like that, like no one wants to feel like that. I don't even want to feel like that. It's my company, right? So I like the fact that we can have a happy hour and have some drinks, and one of the things that I was mentioning to Scott earlier was, one of my criteria for whether I'll hire someone is if I would like to get drunk with them. You know what I mean? Is this person gonna hold I don't have long hair, but is this person gonna hold my hair back and puking on the side of the road? Who would I want to be holding that bucket, right? Like that's the real question. Who do you want to be holding that bucket? Because if you like the fact that they're not gonna make you feel sick, they're gonna take care of you, they're gonna be there for you, they're gonna step up, they're gonna be the right support for you. That's the person that I want holding that bucket, not someone who's going to be like frantic and like worry about it. Like, what do I, right? So what we look for in people that we're hiring is people that take their work very seriously. They know kind of when to step up. They know how they can be a team player and have a good time at the same time, right? So I'm not encouraging to go out and get be drinking with your employees or get drunk with your employees, but that's just one of the criteria that I'm thinking about in the back of my head, being like, man, if I was in a tough situation, who would I want next to me? And usually
Exactly.
it becomes more crystal clear when you're thinking about hiring someone. Ultimately, at the end of the day, my mortgage and that's money that's coming out of the business is not going towards my family and my mortgage and my lifestyle, or even the other employees that have committed their kind of life. So we don't want people that aren't taking it seriously, right? Because we're right?
Yeah. You said a lot of really interesting things there in the sense of creating proactive policies for your virtual office environment. And then also to what you're identifying with in the parity of holding someone's hair back is the level of trust out of the gate. So how do you sustain that? So oftentimes we can see that companies have the writing on the wall, but it's not matching with what's happening within the organization. Or they might have fantastic policies and best intent, but operations might get in the way in the sense of the culture or the soft skills pieces that you're talking about. So how do you continuously kind of walk the walk within your organization?
It's a good question. So, every few months, so we have guiding principles. They're printed out on my wall over here, but we have a soft copy in our Google Drives that anyone can access. And these are, very very simple, standard one-liners in terms of like our ethics, our principles, how we operate, what our essentially our goal is. And so it's always about reiterating, reminding that, being kind of very open and transparent about. Again, you want to tread the line between, like, you never want to inject your belief system or, politics, if you will, into the workplace. But I also want to make sure that we're embracing diversity by celebrating, Christmas is coming up and, not everyone celebrates Christmas, right? So we want to make sure that the people that aren't, are being able to spend those days with their family or, being able to celebrate it or speak openly about it and not feel ostracized. Because I know what being a minority, I know what that can feel like, right? So, I've been acutely aware to make sure that in our organization that there's a gender balance, that there's a diversity balance, and at the end of the day, of course, it's merit based. You know what I mean? We're not going to bring in anyone just because of their background. We're going to make sure that they're adding value and they're stepping up, and it's when you close your eyes and open your ears to what people are saying, it's interesting how many smart people are actually out there when we look past some of the preconceived biases and notions we have about people that are not like us.
Yes, I hear you.
I think you bring up a really good point around the idea of bringing people on your team and not just for the reason of checking the boxes, but I like this analogy of, closing your eyes and opening your ears. And this might be a good segue. I know that you've experienced a lot of employee growth over the past 6 or 8 months. And I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that have maybe come up more internally, I guess, in terms of growing your team and bringing people or onboarding people?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I think the one main challenge, which we're in the process of addressing right now, is because I was by myself for the first 2.5 years, a lot of the processes, systems, how to engage with clients, when to engage with clients, how to use the tools the right way, different strategies that we prescribe to as an organization that we know work or doesn't work. A lot of that is like in my head. so or like in my inbox from like the correspondence with the client, or like in some drive deep within my own personal folders, right? So a big part of what we're focused on right now is working through identifying kind of what the different processes are that we need to introduce into the organization. If there's systems that we don't have, to get those in as well. But really, we're having a whole process development process or strategy session, if you will, next Friday. And what that's all about is identifying the processes. What are the goals of that? What's the goal, objectives of that process? Laying it out, assigning champions to it, having steering committees around it, and then taking those processes, running it through like a client experience journey so that the clients who are ultimately the benefactor of a good, strong policy system, they're being taken from A to Z through these different processes in a timely, efficient manner so that we can strive to have really aggressive and competitive SLAs to make sure that, when someone signs their contract, that they're getting a full-fledged campaign in X amount of time and it's being done at this level of quality, right? So there's a lot of, again, this depends on the stage your business is at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, for me, the focus was surviving, having your head above water, sales. Sales is my comfort zone. As I mentioned, I was a sales trainer, right? So for me, my default is like, let me go out and sell more, right? And then we'll hire more people. But, we have the bandwidth now, and still there's a bit of a chicken with your head cut off kind of syndrome that's permeating, right? And I take ownership for that. That's my responsibility and fault, right? And so really the next step to that is to develop processes to become more efficient. And I think as we develop those processes, we'll be able to do a few things. We'll be able to automate certain steps within those processes by investing in tools, thus shortening the process time. And the second is, making sure that we're, training everyone on it effectively so that we're all kind of singing from the same song sheet, if you will, or, walking the same walk. So every client is getting the same exact experience and the quality isn't diminishing. And then the third piece is one of the tools that I didn't mention that we have is one called T-Sheets, which actually tracks, it's a time tracking software that allows us to see kind of by team member, by service item, by client, how much time is going into each of the different tasks that we're doing on any given day, right? So our goal is to ultimately take those processes, make those the new service items within this platform so that we're able to track each process in and of itself, and then we can look to make realistic time deadlines and goals based on each process. So, there's a variety of reasons why we've introduced it, but I think it's because we're at the stage and it's come as a result of not like necessity, yes, but also kind of having the mind open to it, because this is not my comfort zone. I'm excited about it because I'm like forcing myself to be excited about it. When we talk about sales and marketing, I don't have like an ops mind by default. So I think that's another thing, getting excited about learning something new as kind of course of having to do things.
So Riaz, in the short time frame where you've been growing your team, and the growth has been almost twofold plus for your organization, what has been your biggest learning around this?
I think the biggest learning has been I probably waited too long to hire people. I like the idea, and I think I don't regret, but I also recognize that if I maybe had invested in someone earlier, or more people earlier, then we could have probably scaled a little bit differently. Rather than, a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they get into the I know everything kind of mentality. And I think I was there where it's like, oh, no one's going to do it as well as me, and I've built it to this point where it's X amount of revenue per month. And it's like, well, no one else is doing that. So I must be like the greatest thing since ever. Right. So I think realizing that I don't know everything and realizing that it makes, for example, if we're doing Google and Facebook ads for our clients, I'm not spending 100% of my time doing that. I'm spending, X amount of time on biz dev and X amount of time on finance and HR and all the different functional areas of the business. So really that leaves, let's say 25% of my time to actually work on campaign technician type work. Well, if I'm hiring someone who's seasoned, who's spending 100% of their time working on that, then they're obviously going to do a better job than I would. And that's good for the client, obviously. So I think, and the learnings have really been investing in the right people, recognizing that, and not being arrogant or obnoxious to think that you know everything, that, and then I guess the third piece is making sure that you pay a good salary for people, because you got to stay competitive. And because, the best, I want to grow with my team, and I don't want people to come to the company because like they got laid off during COVID and now they're having to like take a step down before they build themselves back up and then they go somewhere else, right? I want people to not leave their other job. Well, I guess so. I mean, you want them to leave their other job, or, because of COVID, they've been laid off because of the circumstances there. And that's obviously not ideal for anyone in the economy, but like, ideally they're coming to us because they're getting a step up, right? They're getting up, and I want our company to be a destination, not like a place that people go to settle and be like, okay, well, I guess this is my life now. Like I want people to have fun and have a good time and feel like they're being challenged and growing with us.
And so how do you go about creating that type of environment for your team members?
It's good. Yeah. So, I mean, I used to be a corporate trainer, as I mentioned. So I really do believe in learning. So I think giving the tools to the team to learn, holding regular sessions where, a lot of those Monday meetings or Friday meetings, I'm coming in with some type of training exercise where we'll do like Zoom breakouts where everyone will go in pairs and we'll, they'll ask questions to each other, come back and report back to the bigger group. And, really trying to make it like a workshop style environment that everyone kind of prescribes to, empowering others, right? So, making, sincerely wanting people to kind of step up so they can contribute to themselves and by extension to the business, right? So I think those are like the kind of the two main ways that we do that in terms of kind of keeping it fresh. Another thing I do is I'll just, message someone on Slack and be like, hey, let's just jump on a Zoom, right? And it's 5 minutes about nothing, right? Like, let's just hang out and have a conversation. It's kind of like a, informal water cooler to be like, how are you? Like, sincerely, how are you? Like no hidden agenda. I'm not like pulling the bait and switch where it's like, how are you? And then, oh yeah, like this happened with this client, this happened with this person. Like, I'm not like coming with it. Like, it's not like a slapping their hand thing. It's genuinely what's up. Like, let's talk. Let's hang out. Let me tell you about what's going on in my life too. Like, having an open conversation and sometimes in this environment where we are all kind of lonely, if you will, it gives a nice kind of break out of the day to be able to jump on those calls and just, shoot the shit with people,
Exactly. I was just
me and Andrew looking at each other like, who's going to ask next? So there is one thing that came up for me as around that, you've mentioned a lot around helping create an environment for your employees to feel kind of at home and comfortable, to be themselves. And, this idea of almost creating a bit of a workshop environment on these Friday cooler talks and these breakout rooms. I'm curious how receptive have the employees been in actually opening up? Where I know I believe that is a challenge that a lot of leaders face is, maybe I try to create this environment, but not everybody might be open to it. And I'm just curious, without specifics, but what your experience has been with that.
Yeah, like in terms of like how receptive people are to being open, like ultimately the goal is for them to feel as open and comfortable as they want, right? Like there's no obligation to like, wear their heart on their sleeve or anything like that. But I think ultimately I just want the team to know that there is a channel, a venue for them to vent if they need to, and no one's obligated to take me or anyone up on that, right? But I think ultimately, people have chosen to kind of be open because they trust me and they trust the team, and it kind of stems like there's this kind of whole like, how do I keep my team accountable during COVID? And it's like, well, the reality is they probably weren't you probably weren't keeping them accountable before if you're actually asking that question, right? Like the way to keep people accountable is to hire people that you can trust, right? Hold your hair back while you're puking, right? People that you can trust, people that are passionate about the mission, conveying the mission and vision. Like if people don't know what success looks like, then how are they going to prescribe to that or get excited about that, right? Mm-hmm. People know that we're growing. Everyone on the team knows we're growing. When we have a new client, everyone hears about it. And we kind of celebrate it with like emojis and stuff and all that type of stuff, right? So, getting people involved in the bigger picture is all of those things will kind of drive engagement. It'll drive passion, because at the end of the day, yeah, it might be like my name and my hair over there behind on the logo, but ultimately we're a team. We are living and dying by our collective response and the way that we work together to help clients, right? So, and then I guess the final part to that is they're not accountable to me. They're not even accountable to themselves. We are accountable to our clients, right? And our clients are accountable to their customers. So really, they don't need to make sure that I'm happy. They don't even need to make sure that our clients are happy. They need to make sure that our clients are happy, that they're having a good experience, so that when they're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or another social channel or Google and they're seeing an ad that we put out there, that they can resonate with it, that is targeted to them in the right way, that it's not, like no one likes to be targeted with an ad that doesn't speak to them, right? So we want to make sure that we're treating the human on the other side of the computer or cell phone or mobile phone with the utmost of respect, that we're not wasting their time and that we're presenting ads to them that they can resonate with and that are actually going to help their lives, right? And if we can help our clients' customers' lives, then ultimately the rest will fall into place.
Definitely. Yeah. I can certainly ascribe to everything that you're identifying with in the sense of the terms of accountability. It's really making sure that you have a fit within your culture, and then that is abundantly communicated from the top down, essentially, is what you're describing. And the accountability is really painting that picture and leading team members to understand that it's the clients that we're accountable for. It's not that kind of carrot and stick or bait and switch type of management style. So that's fantastic. Really appreciate your insights around that, Riaz. So we ask all participants, what are 3 words of inspiration that you would want the world to hear from you?
3 words. I would say action. Do you want context or should I say the word?
We can do both. Start with the words first.
We can call it commentary to each word then. So action is, businesses and entrepreneurs, they like their business doesn't run unless they're driving it, right? So, you have to be the driver of your business, right? And you have to find and nurture leaders to become drivers, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that is really very important and inspiring for me because I'm very action oriented. And there's some business owners that they create a logo and slap on a business card and they're like, now what? It's like, no, make sales first and then figure out, right? Like make a sale and then figure out the rest, right? You don't even don't need a business number or like a logo or anything to make a sale. You don't even need a product. Just go sell something and then figure it out, right? So action is definitely the first one. Patience is the second. I think there's because obviously I'm getting targeted with like marketing and entrepreneur ads on YouTube all the time. So it's like, hey, like Riaz, do you want to make 6 figures in this amount of time? Or like, there's all these like kind of YouTube gurus that are like trying to really say like you can do it in the next 2 days. And it's like, no, you know what? It's gonna take time. It's gonna take patience. Do it the right way. It's like anything rewarding or that's worth the effort, right? Which is like be patient. Put the time in, put the effort in. No one likes always work. Well, some people like working out, but like people that they go on a diet. A diet is very short-sighted, right? You got to change your lifestyle. You got to have patience and think long-term. Same thing with a business. Same thing with raising a child, right? You're not going off to university tomorrow. I have a 2-year-old son, right? There's many, many years of like diapers and taking care and talking and encouraging and playing and all that stuff, right? And that takes patience and resilience, right? So I would say patience would be kind of the second one. And the third one I would say would be just like kindness. I think there's a bit of as businesses grow and entrepreneurs grow, there's this tendency, and not for all, but not for the smart ones anyways, but for some, they become arrogant. They believe that they're above it all. And like, am I working on every single campaign? Am I going on every single client meeting at this point? No, but it's not because I'm above it. It's because like there are things that I'm working on now that are going to help all clients and all campaigns and these processes and systems, right? So I think there's maybe a tendency as we grow to feel like we've made it, so it's like, yay, like we've made it. So and that's like the fastest way to kind of start slipping backwards, right? So all that to say is that just like be nice to people, like don't be a d-bag is kind of what I say to the team, and I try and live that by being available. Like again, my virtual office door, my Zoom door is always open, right? And there's no topic that kind of is beneath me. And it's like, it goes back to this idea of beginner's mindset, right? The moment you think that you know too much, you don't know anything at all, right? So, and it's like, as your business grows, you reach kind of a certain plateau and really like you're at the bottom of the next level, right? So that's kind of some of the entrepreneurs that I follow online have, they kind of speak to this idea of like being in the next kind of level, but being at the bottom of the next level, right? So, it's more of a golf game. Like, you're playing against yourself, right? And I think, if you put your head down, stay focused, have the right foundational skills, listen to people, right? Because take advice and be cautious about the advice you take, of course, but take advice, listen to different opinions, and don't make decisions in haste. You're gonna be good.
Mm-hmm. So leaving us with action, patience, and kindness. We really appreciate the contextual kind of wraparound that you had painted for us as well. Honest to goodness, there's some strengths there and golden nuggets to take away. So thank you so much, Riaz, for joining us today. We really appreciate sharing your entrepreneurial insights and your journey with Intuitive Performance and also our subscribers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And of course, if you want to learn more about me, you can visit sidi.io. That's SIDI.io. Or you can just visit me on LinkedIn or any of the social platforms. You can find me easily there.
That's fantastic. And we're also going to advertise your LinkedIn connection and your website on our podcast as well through distribution. Take good care.
Appreciate that. Have a good day.
Thank you very much for all of our subscribers to tuning in into another great episode of the Elevate Business podcast. Take good care. Thanks for listening to the Elevate Business podcast. I hope you enjoyed the program. You can subscribe to future podcasts at intuitiveperformance.com, where you can also sign up for webinars and learn more about professional coaching and our facilitation solutions available to help fire up your whole person performance skills and drive actions for success. Until next time, stay true to you and take care of each other. We are all better together. Thanks for listening to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm glad you could join us. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, make sure to visit our website. The link can be found in the episode description, where you can subscribe to the podcast, sign up for our newsletter, and learn more about our whole person leadership services. Sounds interesting? Explore the Whole Person Leadership Cohort by Intuitive Performance, a unique program that offers unparalleled support to managers on every step of their leadership journey. Our program features evidence-based assessments, workbooks, group coaching, and interactive learning experiences to help you level up your leadership skills. Reach out today to apply to one of our upcoming cohorts. Until next time, take care and stay curious.